Thanks for the support as a channel member, Mark Frankos. Well, boys and girls, have we all recovered from Friday? If you haven't watched it yet, no spoilers. Go back and watch it right now, because the spoilers are coming. The series has ended. We've won the Champions League twice. We're now going to have a look back at 25 years of Home Football Club. And then at the end of this video, I am going to hit retire. Hello and welcome to what I guess is part 231 of It's Coming Home. I might not have numbered it. I might just have called it and look back on 25 years of Home or something like that. I'm Kev. If this is your first video of mine that you're watching, I've got some homework to set you. Go and check out the rest of this playlist and come back. But this video really is, it's a nostalgia fest. It's a look back at 25 years in the history of Home Football Club. But first, we're going to kick things off just by looking at the end of season awards, because they are going to be important. They are going to be relevant to the player of the series, team of the series voting at the end of this video. Link to that is down in the description if you're not going to watch to the end and you just want to vote. So the overall best 11, this is important because the voting for the team of the series and the player of the series, to get into the team of the series voting, you have to have made it into a team of the year at some point. Ideally, you'd be in the team of the all-time best 11 according to the game. And in order to get into the voting for the player of the series, you must have won player of the season at some point. And at the moment, Thor has never won player of the season. So he might not be eligible for the voting for player of the series, despite being the striker on the in-game version of the overall best 11. So this is, according to Football Manager 2019, my team of my career at home. Powell in goal, a back four of Aleph Sands, who, by the way, Cesar Sands. Oh, he's not still at Paris Saint-Germain. Here's me thinking he was. He went to play for Red Bull Salzburg after them. Lee and Mayer. Phillip Harrison has made it into the all-time best 11. This is for the team that produced Dean Morris, who did play for us and who did play for, I mean, he must have had 3 or 4 seasons in total for us in the end, Dean Morris, as well as 50-odd caps for England. Yes, Phillip Harrison was here for a long time on loan, but would he be in the all-time? If you're going to play a defensive midfielder in the all-time best 11, and the one you're voting on, it isn't. It's the 4-2-3-1 that won us everything. We're not doing the diamond. The game still thinks the diamond is my preferred system. So Phillip Harrison makes it in, not only ahead of the likes of Dean Morris, but also ahead of the likes of John Goff, Lucas Flager, Diarra, Mira. Who else can we throw out there on the left wing? Connor Stanley, bless his cotton socks. Cristiano and Zupancic in midfield. That feels right to me. They were the midfield that won it all. Manu as the attacking midfielder, who is now playing for Inter. He has got around with it since leaving us. Still never played for Spain, which I think is one of life's great travesties. It's like the Enoch Nuhu situation with Nuneaton last year, who won everything for us and never played for Germany. If you look at the career Manu has had, Premier League titles, Champions League titles, Home are one of the best teams in the world. He played for us for a long time. But in addition to that, Real Madrid, Chelsea, Inter, nearly £100 million worth of transfers in his career. Probably over 500 top-level appearances when you include Champions League in there as well. Scoring at a goal every 4.5-ish games. Every 5 games maybe, getting almost as many assists. How has that man never played for Spain? Ridiculous. And then up front, Thor and Chadney Matondo. Matondo, who is still plugging away at the age of 35. Yeah, he never became the player we thought he would be. On the bench, there's Archie Proctor. I need to remind you who Archie Proctor is, because he is up in the vote for Team of the Series. He did play for us for 6 years and played 200 games for us, was our captain for a spell. He was an important part of the team that got us where we are now. Lerick Fernandez, you know all about. Lucas Flager, just watch last episode, you know all about him. Sir Anthony Harris, of course, a homegrown hero, as was Sir Mick Powell. Good to see both of them still on the bench after all this time. And Oliver Gregson as well, who was our right back for a long, long time. He had 7 years as our right back, again, nearly 200 games. He was kind of the prototype for the right back we used ever since. Oliver Gregson was constantly attacking down that right-hand side. He was eventually replaced by Riviere and then replaced by Meyer. And it shows how good our right backs have been, that since 2026, which is, 15, 16 years, we've had 3 right backs, basically 3 regular right backs. Gregson, then Riviere, then Meyer, and they all had tenure in their role. The best 11 of whatever that season is, we've already looked at all of those players. Oh no, that is the all-time best 11. That catches me out every year. So Anthony Harris, still coaching for England. I know you'll all ask, this was Mira's season for Paris Saint-Germain. He was quite good in the end, wasn't he? He was quite good. It would have been nice to keep him. Not that we needed him. We still won everything anyway. Fans Player of the Year is Sinisa Juranovic, which means I just need to go over here for a second and add him into the voting for overall Player of the Series. Because, that's actually quite surprising that, again, Thor doesn't make it in. Thor didn't even make it in top three. But Juranovic is now eligible for the voting for Player of the Series. I'm going to throw it out there and suggest he probably won't win it, but it's certainly, he's eligible now, which Thor isn't and never will be, which is very, very sad. Lee, as the runner-up, also not eligible for that because he also never won Player of the Year, which is, that's also pretty disgraceful. After 10 years at the club, never won Player of the Year, but Juranovic has. Diarra as the runner-up. Drame got Goal of the Season. Let's have a look at Drame's Goal of the Season. He's emerged as a real star for us this year as well. Oh, it's so exciting seeing all my youngsters come through. I'm very excited to see the 5 years in the future video. That one will be coming out on Friday. On Wednesday, we've got a look at the wider footballing world, 25 years in the future. This one's focused just on home. That is a good goal from Drame. So home today, 25 years in the future of the rest of the world on Wednesday. And that's when I'm going to release the save to you. And then Friday, we've got 5 years in the future. Walter Silva got signing of the season, which surprises me because Silvio came in this year and played regularly and got in Team of the Year. I don't get it. And Diarra winning Young Player of the Year. I'm very happy that Diarra is finally emerging as a superstar. Just as I'm leaving, we signed him aged 18. He is a homegrown at-club player. We spent a lot of money on him and it's finally justified. So Team of the Year, Powell, Silvio, Juranovic, Lee and Meyer, Zipancic and Cristiano in midfield as usual. Diarra, Drame and Flager behind Thor up front. The stats for the season: Thor once again top goal scorer on 27 goals, Diarra best player on 7.48 and most assists on 20. What a year Diarra had. Cristiano as usual best pass completion, Thor most man of the match, and there's your naughty boys club. Season review, we did good. We don't need to look at the team of 2037. I don't think there's anyone in there that I'm particularly interested in checking up on. Most of them are still with us. There's a few who've moved on. Alves is still playing for Paris Saint-Germain as well, or he's still at Paris Saint-Germain. He doesn't play very often. We're basically their feeder club. Manu we've already looked at. Djuric we've met this season. Alan Baron, who is eligible for Player of the Series. He's at Juventus. It's mad that both him and Juranovic are, and Cesar Sanz, they're all eligible. Lee, no. Sanz we've already looked at, and Maximiliano Yamin is now playing for Burnley. Saidi and Akemo we've both looked at being at Brighton, and Costa still plugging away playing for Shanghai in Spain. Our team leaders Lee, Powell and Goff. I would love to see John Goff take over as manager. I suggest he probably won't. Plans for next season, I can't break it to them that I'm not going to be here yet. I'm going to tell them we're going to win the league again and then not mention that I'm not going to be here. Yeah, that'll be our pre-season start date. Thor has won the Champions League Golden Boot with 11 goals from 13 appearances, beating Mira. That's the important thing. Good old Thor. He's had 5 years with us now, always been a consistent goal scorer. Club Bruges legend, not a home legend. And then the Champions League Dream Team has a very green look about it. Lee, Juranovic, Meyer, Robert, Zipancic, Goff and Thor all making it into the Champions League Dream Team. Again, no Mira. and the Champions League award winners. We don't have anybody for goalkeeper of the season. Lee has won Champions League defender of the season. Meyer, runner-up. Juranovic, third. Diarra has won Champions League midfielder of the season with Drame in third place. And Thor has won Champions League striker of the season. What a bunch of heroes. Diarra, I'm so happy with this Diarra situation. It is ridiculous. Still not made his France debut. He's the best midfielder in the Champions League. The French manager should probably pay attention to that. Right, having a look around the rest of the club. So we can't even fit our 25-year history on this screen anymore. Obviously, it's been a good recent few years. If we have a look at who's ended the series as our rivals, so obviously, reputation-wise, we've ended up as a 5-star reputation club. We started off with all our local rivals, but making it onto our rivals list as the series has gone on, we've had Arsenal, Manchester United and Manchester City. They're the teams that have been pushing us for league titles all the way through. I was the only one to make it to legendary status in the end, so I'm hoping when we eventually do get the new ground, it will be the Kevin Chapman Stadium. I would cry. I would like that very much. Mira, of course, was a legend but dropped down. Club icons. Again, icons and favoured personnel. These all make it into the team of the year voting, but not necessarily the player of the series voting, which again, the likes of Lee and Thor, not eligible for player of the series. But icons, Candermill, Buckley. Remember John Buckley? If you do, you can vote for him. John Buckley was with us just for a couple of years, but it was 2 very important years. And if I recall, he won Player of the Year 2 years in a row and was instrumental in those early promotions. Mayer, Mick Powell, we know all about. Joseph Colley is another one who wasn't here for a long time. 5 years officially under contract with us, but he was only a regular starter for maybe 3 of those. But he did win Player of the Year twice as well, if I recall. Riviere, I think he was the first player to win Player of the Year 3 times. We'll check on that in a minute. Beron had that one good year, then signed permanently and was never the same. Webber, another in a long run of excellent fullbacks that we have. Another former captain as well. Just 4 years here, but was ever present throughout. And I think, if I recall, we ended up selling him because we needed the money at the time. And I think it was because Mark Wearmouth was emerging, who's not on the favoured personnel list, much to the dismay of Mrs. Wearmouth and her delightful lasagna. Mira, Anthony Harris, Connor Stanley and Juranovic. And then the favoured personnel, Lee, Flager, Thor, Goff, Aleph and Costa. If we have a look at the club records as well, which are where... In fact, that's a nice screen to look at. So we've ended... Bearing in mind this club didn't exist when the series started, we have now won all of this stuff. 2 Champions Leagues, 7 Premier Leagues, a Club World Cup, a European Super Cup, 2 FA Cups, a League Cup, 3 Charity Shields, 2 Checker Trade trophies, which were won by our under-23s. We never won that on the way through. The FA Trophy we did win when we were below Conference North level. We did win the Conference North and the Northern Premier League, and of course, where it all began when we won the Northern Premier League Division 1 East. Most league appearances, Mick Powell, 398 appearances, and Lee on 342 is the highest of the current players. And I'd like to think, when we look at the 5 years in the future video at the end of the week, that Lee will have broken that record, because I think he deserves it. And then all-time record goal scorer, Sir Anthony Harris. It's goals in a season. Sir Anthony Harris and Thor didn't come close this year, but let's have a look at the actual records. Competitions we've already looked at. Landmarks, I don't think we need to look at. Managers, that's going to get a new statistic. Should I make it all the way through to 25 years? So, records. These are the players eligible for Player of the Series. And it's quite interesting. When I was looking through this, I was surprised to see that Sir Mick Powell only ever won it once. Back in that second season when he did a Mick Powell. Sir Anthony Harris was obviously the star of the first series. And what a story for Sir Anthony Harris as well. Winning Player of the Year then, leaving then, but then when he came back, he won Player of the Year again then, 15 years later. I think that is the mark of a true superstar. Buckley only won it once, and then Colley won it twice, Webber twice, Stanley. Matondo was the first player to win it 3 times, with Gregson getting in the way as well. Riviere remembered his statistic wrong. He was the first to win it 3 years in a row. Matondo doing it 3 years with the gap. And then George Mayer also won it 3 times. similar situation to Harris, although not quite the same, as he didn't leave and come back. But you can see George Mayer has just consistently been excellent because he's been here nearly 10 years, and every now and again he's our best player. Costa picking it up there, Candemill with the one player of the year, Beron with one, Mira with one, and then Juranovic with the most recent one. I also want to look at top goal scorers each season, which is where top goal score, overall goals in a season. So this is where Mick Powell just dominates. So Sir Anthony Harris, 40 goals in that first year, Mick Powell 42 the year after, and then was consistently top scorer until Sir Anthony Harris came back. But that's the really interesting thing. Harris comes back there, and it's still another 5 or 6 years until he wins Player of the Year. Sir Anthony Harris, I think, and I need to check the dates, I think he won Player of the Season in our first year, the Northern Premier League Division 1 East, and I think he also won it in the Premier League. What year did we get promoted to the Premier League? So we came up to the Premier League. That was the year we got promoted. So he won Player of the Year in our promotion season. That would have, winning it in the Division 1 East thing and the Championship is still pretty impressive. Not quite as impressive as what I thought he'd achieved. And then the rest of the top goal scorers, as you would expect, we had the Mick Powell era, then the Matondo and Harris partnership that went on for a long time, trading top goal scorer back and forth between them. Then we got Adrio, had that one good season, Presedo, when no one was scoring. Then we had Kano and Akamo as our partnership. That was a tough year. Costa comes in, Kano and Akamo not scoring, and that's when we realised we needed replacements, and that's when we entered the era of Mira and Thor. I consider Mira and Thor, that's when we entered the world-class era, when we got two of the best players in the world, and Thor outscored Mira, and he's the one who stayed, and that is the most important thing as far as I'm concerned. We're going to quickly skip through all of the all-time best 11s as well, just to pick out some names, some blasts from the past. Anybody who we might have a story about. Rich de Groot, I think, was our first signing and the first player to leave the club. Am I right in saying that? We can look at that in a second. Dunn, I think, was the first goal scorer. I've always said Sir Anthony Harris was the first goal scorer. He did score in the first episode, but Dunn, I think, got the first goal and then quickly left for St Albans not long afterwards. Shane Phillips didn't even make it into Team of the Year that season. Dean Morris, of course, did. And then, what a year. Harris and Powell at their best together, playing at a level they tore apart. That was a team. What a team that was. Goodness me. And then we went out wide. Do you remember Stanley and Cottrell tearing leagues apart? The way Flager and Diarra have done this season. Powell just not. That's why Powell scored so many goals, because Connor Stanley was so good. That midfield three was superb. Phillips, Benson, and Buckley. I mean, that was a League One midfield playing in the Northern Premier League, which is why we absolutely ruined it and won the FA Trophy at the same time. I don't even remember him, but Benson moved on. Buckley, Pozo, I always thought he'd end up better than he did. Critchlow Noble, I loved for a little while. Colley has arrived at that point. Then we get Tyler and Stanley, which was another fantastic partnership, and then Lerick Fernandez. He's going to be a bit of a fixture in this for a little while now, I think. He's another one who I did think might have got the all-time record appearances. I think if we hadn't have got promoted as quickly as we did, he would have done, because he was very good. Probably better than Sir Mick Powell, ability-wise. Was still playing for us in the Premier League, just like Sir Anthony Harris was. And there he is in the Team of the Year for the first time in the National League, along with Shane Phillips as well. And that's where Webber materialised, along with Proctor as well. So some stalwarts of the lower league days in there as well. See, this team is starting to take on a very familiar look now. It's not changing massively year on year. This is when you know it's a good team, because it's a team that came together in the Northern Premier League and is still pretty much together in League Two. League One, it's starting to take on a slightly different shape. Now, you've still got Fernandez and Phillips and Proctor and Tyler and Stanley. Sir Anthony Harris is now back. That's when Mick Powell dropped out, and I wonder if he ever made it back into Team of the Year. I think League Two was pretty much where he maxed out. I know we all loved him, but he didn't really cope with the Football League very well, did he? Bless him. Even in League Two, only 13 goals. Mick Powell was a very, very good non-league player. Sir Anthony Harris was a very, very good player. That's how I would. I think that's how I would phrase it. And then the 4-3-1-2. I don't even remember doing this. I thought we went straight to the diamond. But now I'm looking at it, I do remember the Sawinski Fernandez midfield. David Sawinski, the one that got away before the one that got away. And then Wearmouth, Proctor, Wright and Gregson. I mean, that is a good back four and a good goalkeeper. And in fact, that looks like a very good team. Matondo and Harris together for the first time. That lasted a long time. Moss arrived. He's another one who was here on loan for ages, and then we eventually signed permanently, and he was never quite the same. Sawinski and Fernandez played together forever. Harrison's arrived there as well. Oh, those were the days. Gregson's arrived now as well. The turd is in. But other than that, again, it's another example of the team not really changing much for a number of years because it was such a good team. This was a team that we put together in League One, and by and large, it's the same team that got us promoted to the Premier League, which, see, it's not remember Ollie Steer, it's not changing massively year on year, and then we hit the Premier League, and even then it's not huge upheaval, but we do get a couple of key names arrive in that first season. Riviere and Manu, I thought I was spending so much money when I spent £13.5 million on him. Riviere, I didn't realise how much of a bargain I was getting, but he's ever present there until Maya pretty much. Kano arriving, Adrio. This is where we start to bring in some of the fancier names. We wasted a lot of money on defenders that year and nearly got relegated, but Caesar Sands ended up being a decent one. And then Lee's arrived. Oh, look, Lee's here. We've still got Kano and Adrio. Saidi's in as well. This is when we started spending £53 million on goalkeepers. But Lee will be there forever now. Lee and Sands together with Candemil, who's now arrived. Saidi still in goal, Riviere still there, Kano and Akamo. They were together for so long. It was a partnership that was certainly given a fair crack and wasn't too bad. Between the two of them, a goal a game. We just wanted players who could do a goal a game on their own. At this point, Sands has been replaced, sat down there on the bench with Dianzi arriving, and then Mira, Costa, Cristiano and Alves all arriving at the same time saying, yeah, we're going to win the Premier League now, lads. The big boys have arrived. And then we switched to the 4-2-3-1. And from that moment on, that, as they say, is history. And it's going to be another period where you're not going to see this team change very much now. Powell's arrived. Juric had his one season. Flager's in. Zupancic and Cristiano are together in midfield. Lee is with Beron, which lasted a few years until Juranovic took his place. Mayer and Candemil. I think Aleph probably took his place towards the end. Hervé got a year in there without Lee. My word, Hervé and Beron that year. No Lee in Team of the Year. Sorelio with his little burst into the team as well. And then Thor's in. And then Lee and Juranovic are together, which, that's been 3 or 4 years now. Aleth's now pushed Candemil out of the team. So Candemil was only in the Team of the Year like twice. As much as we all remember him as a hero and our captain for a long time, Aleth was never that far behind him. Goff's now arrived as well. Joksimovic pushed Mayer out for the year, but then Mayer's back in and stayed in. And Silvio pushes Aleth out towards the end, and there's your all-time best 11. I'm feeling sad because I know I'm going to have to retire. Before I do, I guess there's one other thing I probably need to do. Right. Without a sizable increase in our fan base, moving to a new stadium could bring more problems than benefits. You must be aware the fans are behind me. I don't know if I can bring myself to leave home on the back of a threat. If you don't grant this request, I'm not certain I'll be able to carry on my job. Well, I'm leaving anyway. Should I really push Ben Phillips? I don't want to leave home under a cloud. If you feel this way, it's probably best if we part company. I'm going to shake hands with Ben Phillips and say that's fine. I'm not going to walk out over this. He didn't sack me. But I am going to leave anyway. This is the point where you will get the save later on in the week after I've done the look at the rest of the world. One other thing I suppose I should show you is my managerial career. So I've made it to the ripe old age of 60, earning 180 grand a week. If we have a look at my manager overview, so 9,099 days as manager of Home. The best English manager of all time. I signed 418 players for £1.8 billion. 279 players sold for 1.3 billion. So I've only had a net transfer spend of 500 million pounds over the course of this save, which, bearing in mind this is a club that has an annual income of more than that, this financial pickle is not my fault. It is not my fault. It's the stupid board not giving us our own ground. It's their fault. We've paid 125 million pounds to agents. We ended up playing, that is insane. So in fact, let's look at total career. We'll include England as well. 1,392 games played, 803 won, 286 drawn, 303 lost. We scored 2,722 goals, conceded 1,521, conceding at more than a goal a game for 25 years. That's pitiful. But a positive goal difference, a positive win percentage, 13 cups won, 10 leagues won, 7 promotions. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I will call that a career well spent. 25 seasons, probably 500 or 600 hours of real life. It's been awesome, but it is time to go. I'm going to retire. I'm going to remember to save the file so that I can give it to you lot. And then I'll be back in a couple of days' time, and we're going to have a look at the rest of the footballing world. Oh, it actually says on there, game time, 19 days, 13 hours and 50 minutes of in-game time. I've saved it 1,571 times. Goodness me. There we go. Gonna miss you, Home. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave it. Oh, Kev, shut up. Voting is open down at the bottom, and there is a link down in the description to vote for Team of the Year and Team of the Series and Player of the Series. Voting is down in the description below. Go do that now, and I'll announce the winner to that in the 5 years in the future episode on Friday. But if you have enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for FM20 now, isn't it? I can't say daily because it ain't daily this week. It will be daily when FM20 comes out, but we'll be back with something shiny and new for FM20. And thank you very much for watching.